5 creepy Fourth Doctor stories for spooky season. Hello, as part of this series of Doctor Who stories to watch for the spooky season, choosing 5 from different Doctors. This time around, I'm going for the Fourth Doctor, Tom Baker, the Doctor. However, I think I'll pick a few ones slightly off the beaten track this round, or at least not one of the ones that you might normally hear in the Gothic lists. Okay, number 1. The Stones of Blood. This is from season 16, which is possibly my favourite season in the entire history of Doctor Who. Although, as a whole, the season is not a horror season by any means. It's more of a sort of a swashbuckling quest adventure style. But The Stones of Blood is the one story of the season that does kind of venture very much into spooky territory. I mean, you've got Celtic goddesses, you've got stone circles, you've got giant stones that are actually aliens that go around killing people and sucking their blood. I mean, we could do with a few of them at Stonehenge, wouldn't we? They'd sort out these fucking asshole activists in desperate need of I was going to say good kicking, but I can think of more appropriate things they deserve. But there you go. Getting off track. The Stones of Blood is great fun. Lots of spooky stuff. Tom Baker is Tom Baker on his usual peak. Incredible form. You've got a great... you've got Mary Tam as Romana. You've got a great supporting cast, particularly with Beatrix Lerman as the eccentric Professor Rumford. The Stones of Blood has a great atmosphere, and it's ideal stuff for spooky season. 2. Destiny of the Daleks. Again, and this might seem like a bit of a left field choice, but there's a lot of kind of creep factor to Destiny of the Daleks. It's probably the most serious story of the underrated and unfairly maligned by humorless wankers season 17. And the first episode particularly is quite spooky. There's even talk of zombies and strange possibly thing going on, and the soundtrack is also particularly creepy because there's very little music, but there's a lot of kind of atmospheric, kind of diegetic sound, supposedly from the planet itself. It's all very spooky and very creepy. And while the story itself, again, it's just is more or less a standard Dalek story, albeit a very entertaining one, the way that it's done is a lot more kind of unsettling and atmospheric than you might expect from what is essentially just a standard run-around adventure story. I think Destiny of the Daleks is not only underrated, but with its creepy atmosphere, and particularly its creepy first episode, I think it's pretty much a great choice for spooky season. Number 3. The Sontaran Experiment. Again, not a choice that most fans would immediately reach for spooky season, but there's a lot to recommend the Sontaran Experiment. It has got a spooky atmosphere. The spooky feel of desolate, abandoned Earth. Really, it's Dartmoor, which, same thing, really. And the Sontaran itself is a genuinely sadistic monster. Very unpleasant individual to be around. And some of the stuff he gets up to is almost sore for a tea time audience. It's not nice. I think the Sontaran Experiment is again, it's not one of the choices most fans would reach for a spooky season thing. But if you've rewatched Pyramids of Mars and Talons of Wing Chiang and Horror of Fang Rock till the cows come home, and just want something different, but with a bit of a spooky atmosphere, and still our Tom, of course, Sontaran Experiment is a pretty decent choice. 4. Planet of Evil. Now, this one does come smack bang in the middle of the Hinchcliffe and Holmes era and season 13, which is definitely very much a horror season, because it's not one of the ones you really hear about as much as some of the others, like Zygons or Seeds of Doom or Pyramids of Mars or even Bane of Morbius. You don't tend to hear about Planet of Evil as much, which is a shame because I rather like Planet of Evil. Perhaps not one of the heavy hitter masterpiece classics, but it's pretty good stuff, and it's very much ideal for spooky season. You've got a wonderful alien planet, wonderfully realized jungle set that looks incredibly atmospheric on film. You've got this monster that's essentially like just a faceless kind of energy field against which there seems to be no defense. And then later on in the story, you've got a mutated man turning into a beast, prowling the corridors of a dimly lit spaceship, claiming his victims. What's not to like? I mean, this is ideal. Tom Baker, Doctor Who, for spooky season, especially if you haven't seen it for a few years. And number 5. The Mask of Mandragora. Again, season 14, Hinchcliffe Holmes series, but again, not one of the more feted, celebrated / obvious choices from the era or even this particular season. But again, as with Planet of Evil, I think The Mask of Mandragora is pretty underrated. It's a very enjoyable story. It's like with season 16, it's arguably more towards kind of a swashbuckling adventure, but there's a lot of creep factor to it as well. Mandragora and the possessed Hieronymus towards the end of the story, and his sinister cult that follow him and perform human sacrifices. It's all good stuff. It's all good, creepy fun. Again, if you want a Tom Baker story slightly out of left field to enjoy on spooky season, why not give Mask of Mandragora a try, or another try if you haven't seen it for a while. Anyway, those are my 5 picks for 5 spooky stories for Tom Baker for spooky season. Bye for now.